He almost didn't make it to the altar. Not because of scandal, not because of cold feet, but because the thing he feared most was being seen. Jeff Bridges, the man who would go on to become the Dude, a Hollywood icon, an Oscar winner, was terrified of something most people never saw. "I was madly in love with my wife the moment I saw her," he once said. "But getting to the altar, that was the hardest thing I've ever done." And it wasn't just marriage that scared him. It was acting. It was attention. It was the fear that he didn't belong in the life everyone told him he was born for. At 13, he wrote, "Not an actor," on his bedroom door. Not as a joke, as a warning. He nearly walked away from fame not once, but over and over again. Panic attacks, self-doubt, a secret that stayed buried for decades, until finally in 2024, he told the truth, and the room went silent. Jeffrey Leon Bridges was born on December 4, 1949, in Los Angeles, California. But even before he took his first steps, his name was already on a call sheet. At just 6 months old, baby Jeff was cast in The Company She Keeps. The director needed a crying baby, so actress Jane Greer gave him a gentle pinch, and he wailed right on cue. The studio listed him in the credits as simply, "Crying Baby." His first gig, his first performance, and his first paycheck probably went to formula and diapers. His parents, Lloyd and Dorothy Bridges, were both actors. At home, bedtime stories were swapped with script readings. Family dinners paused when the phone rang with a casting call. Jeff's earliest memories aren't of playgrounds or cartoons, but of movie lights and microphones. He wasn't just raised in Hollywood, he was Hollywood. But being born into it didn't mean he trusted it. In the late 1950s, Jeff's father Lloyd gathered Jeff and his older brother Bo in the living room. It was supposed to be just a talk, but it became a warning. Lloyd told them that most actors made less than $5,000 a year. He handed them printed charts to prove it. He didn't want his sons relying on dreams that didn't pay the bills. The rule in the Bridges house was clear: no acting unless your grades were above a B+. And even then, consider engineering instead. That conversation planted something heavy inside Jeff, a fear that acting wasn't stable, that fame was fleeting, that dreams were dangerous. So he rebelled. In 1963, at 13, he grabbed a marker and scrawled across his bedroom door, "Not an actor." He meant it. He threw himself into painting at the Brentwood Art Center. He sold his first canvas for $35 in 1964 and started a surf rock band called the Nozzles. While Bo was memorizing lines, Jeff was learning guitar chords and mixing colors on canvas. This wasn't just teenage angst. It was a message. He didn't want to be Lloyd's son or Bo's little brother. He wanted to be Jeff, an artist, a musician, anything but an actor. But teenage rebellion doesn't always end with gallery openings and guitars. By 16, Jeff was smoking marijuana before school. At jam sessions in Topanga Canyon, LSD was passed around like candy. The summer of love was blooming in LA, and Jeff was in the thick of it. On the night of September 3, 1967, police pulled him over in his Volkswagen Beetle. They found a roach in the ashtray. He was a minor, so instead of arresting him, they called Lloyd. The next morning, everything changed. Dorothy made Jeff start weekly counseling. Lloyd personally drove him to 2 rehab meetings that October, but lectures weren't landing. Jeff was drifting. Fast. So Lloyd changed tactics. Over breakfast in early 1968, he leaned in and said something that stuck. Acting isn't just pretending. It's a way to live 100 lives. Fly jets, play music, paint, all in one job. That one sentence hit differently. Suddenly, acting didn't sound like a cage. It sounded like freedom. Later that year, Jeff agreed to take a small role on Sea Hunt, his father's TV series. He did it for one reason: to earn enough money to buy a Stratocaster. That single decision was the first crack in the wall he'd built. But he didn't dive into Hollywood. In 1967, he enlisted in the Coast Guard Reserve. For 8 years, he cleaned buoys and pulled midnight shifts. It slowed down his acting career, but kept him grounded. Still, in the early 70s, something shifted. He filmed The Last Picture Show in 1971, then Thunderbolt and Lightfoot in 1974. Both earned him Oscar nominations. But instead of chasing fame, he bought a beach house in Malibu and a studio in Venice to make art, surf, and disappear. Then came a moment that would change everything. It was summer 1975. Jeff was filming Rancho Deluxe in Paradise Valley, Montana. One afternoon at the Chico Hot Springs Hotel, he saw her. A woman with 2 black eyes and a broken nose, still healing from a car accident. She was waiting tables to pay for college. Her name was Susan Jeston. Jeff couldn't stop staring. He forgot his lines. The crew teased him relentlessly. He asked her to dinner. She said no. 3 nights later, at the wrap party, they danced. The next morning, they toured ranches by the river. Jeff snapped a photo that he still carries to this day. He didn't need time to figure it out. He knew. In 1977, King Kong premiered. It became the most expensive movie ever made at the time. Jeff was suddenly everywhere. Interviews, magazine covers, commercials. But fame was suffocating. Susan had been by his side through it all. One day she sat him down and said, "I'm going to have children. I'm going to settle down. With or without you." That hit him like a wave. He paced around their Malibu cottage for days. Called his brother Beau in tears. Was he ready to give up his freedom? On Thursday, he drove her to a windy beach in Zuma. He pulled out a turquoise ring and proposed. They were married 5 days later, June 5, 1977. A small backyard wedding with her Lutheran pastor. He later said her ultimatum saved him. In 1979, Jeff bought 320 acres in Montana near the Yellowstone River. He built a small cedar cabin with no phone line. He skipped auditions to paint, fish, and fix fences. His agent called it career suicide. Jeff called it breathing. Still, he struck a deal with himself. He'd take roles, but only if he could escape between them. Cutter's Way in 1981. Tron in 1982, where he nervously asked if computers would replace actors. His on-screen anxiety? Not acting. He was genuinely terrified. In 1984, he played an alien in Starman. Critics loved it. He earned another Oscar nod, but after filming, he no longer recognized himself. He started weekly therapy, just to reconnect with who he was. His daughters were born, Isabel, Jessica, Haley, but fame kept creeping in. After Jagged Edge, Susan gave him a warning. "One more part like that, and I'm done." Jeff backed off, for a while. In 1998, The Big Lebowski came out. It flopped. Then it became a cult hit. People dressed like the dude. Started dudism. Fans asked Jeff to bless their drinks. He stopped going to festivals. He said strangers followed him into bathrooms. At home, his daughters handed him a list titled "Why It's Weird You're Famous." He kept it, because to them, he was never the dude. He was dad. Then in 2020, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. 9 by 12-inch tumor. Then COVID hit. He was hospitalized for 5 weeks. Lost 35 pounds, could barely stand. He read 2 shoeboxes of letters from his mom. That's when he found out his parents nearly divorced in 1969. They had almost given up, but they didn't. That revelation brought him closer to Susan. They talked about everything: money, mortality, forgiveness. By 2021, Jeff had $3 million in hospital bills. To keep his union health insurance, he had to return to filming The Old Man. He could only shoot for 45 seconds at a time, but he did it. The series premiered in 2022 to critical acclaim. His performance wasn't polished, it was raw, because it wasn't acting anymore. It was surviving. April 29, 2024. The Chaplin Award Gala. Jeff Bridges walks on stage in a tuxedo to accept a Lifetime Achievement honor. Instead of reading a polished speech, he looks into the crowd and says, "I never actually wanted to become an actor." Silence. He talks about panic attacks, hiding in garages, feeling like he was wearing someone else's skin. He reads from his teenage journal. People freeze, then they applaud, loud, long. Even today, during Tron Ares, his heart rate during filming hits 148 BPM, higher than it ever was during chemo. He wakes up at 4 a.m. terrified he'll forget how to act. He told reporters, "The fear is louder than the tumors ever were." And he meant it. Jeff Bridges didn't chase the spotlight. He learned to survive inside it. From child actor to reluctant star, from Montana cabins to ICU wards, he's always walked a thin line between escape and expression. But maybe the lesson isn't in how he played his roles, it's in how he never let them define him. If this story moved you, take a second to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss stories that cut through the Hollywood gloss and get to the human truth. Tell us in the comments, what's the one Jeff Bridges moment that stuck with you? And remember, the spotlight can be blinding, but sometimes it's the only place you can finally see who you really are.